actually a good time for me to talk a little bit about that. It's 6:01, so that might not be the greatest note to start on, but I need to kind of describe why this is a little bit complicated, this particular format, because in Arizona we cannot do cocktails to go, which means we can't do tasting kits to
Okay.
go. We used to be able to. Back in the fall, the governor instituted some changes and relaxations in the law so that restaurants and bars could stay alive, partly by doing to-go cocktails. And so I was doing tastings every week. So my normal Thursday tastings, I was continuing those with mezcal kits, and then the bar and the liquor store lobby pushed back on that because they saw some of their interests a little bit diminished by that, and so there was a lawsuit that struck it down. So we are back to not being able to do cocktails to go, and therefore not being able to do tasting kits to go. So the hard part of this is that we're asking people for the tastings to purchase a bottle, because that's the only way it's done legally. And so it's a little bit difficult to do a tasting of 3 and ask people to purchase 3 bottles.
Yeah.
In particular, when the bottles can be more than $100, right? So I'm just assuming that the majority of the crowd here has maybe 1 or 2, perhaps, of the tastings on offer, but they might be inspired to investigate those a little bit later. Right. So that's the only way we can do it, unfortunately, at the moment.
Well, yeah, that's a shame. I mean, it's not an investment. I mean, you'll end up like drinking the whole thing and sharing it and everything. But yeah, it's sometimes it's difficult to just take it out of your pocket in a single exhibition, and
Exactly. Yeah.
especially in this situation, right? But yeah, I mean, let's thank all of these guys that are joining us, because I believe it's a big effort.
Agreed. And on that note, those who did not purchase the selections for the tasting tonight, this is a tasting alongside a presentation. So we certainly invite you to crack open an agave spirit that you might already have in the house, and at least join us in the conviviality of sharing agave spirits. Please do that.
Agree.
And Anna, I'm going to go ahead and begin. Is that?
Yes, sounds good.
That makes sense. Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to the tasting session, or the tasting component of the 4th session of Agave Renaissance. I would like to begin, as I normally do, by thanking the presenters from last night. So thank you, Francesca and Valeria and Leah, for some really interesting information about what's happening in terms of conservation, denominations of origin, the legal frameworks around Bacanora, and perhaps some sustainability certifications that would serve bat populations. That was the theme from last night. So thank you guys for that, and hopefully some of you are here tonight, because although symbiosis imperiled might seem like a kind of a dark theme, or a solemn theme, a somber theme, we are going to talk about that a little bit in the context of Jalisco, Pedro, I'm sure. But we also want to talk about, like we did last night, those projects that are seeking to counter those kinds of threats. One, by conserving the ecology of agave, certainly. 2, by conserving the cultures of agave. And so what we're talking about is a system, is sort of an overarching system, ecological and social. So those 2 subsystems are, you could file them under that larger subsystem. And it seems to me that the speakers tonight represent a project that is all about that. In fact, the mission statement, if I could call it that, Pedro and Zule, the mission statement of Mezonte is all about conserving those biocultural landscapes and those cultural traditions of agave that make, in particular, Jalisco and Michoacan what they are. I mean, you guys work in other zones too. You work in Oaxaca and Durango, I'm sure, other places. But I think your real center of operations is Jalisco and Michoacan. And to me, I mean, your project is one of the most interesting and vital projects in the mezcal world, period. So I am endlessly appreciative of what you guys are doing. You guys curate the Mezonte project. You have a number of producers that you've been working with over the years in an extremely transparent way. And that's in evidence on your website. So those are the kinds of sort of the politics of the market and the politics of the ecology, the political economy, I guess you'd call it, of the mezcal world. I think you guys are definitely models for doing it the right way. So thank you for that. I also wanted to mention before you guys begin, and I'll turn it over to you in a second here, that Pedro, and maybe you too, Zule, I'm not sure, you're a visual artist and I'm not sure that part of you gets emphasized enough when you're participating in things like this. And by the way, you've been participating with us in Tucson for a while now. And so the connection between you and the city of Tucson is very valuable to us for sure. So also thank you for that. But your work is exhibited from Korea to Chile, right? I mean, you've got work exhibited all over the place. And I just wanted to mention that the film Viva Mezcal, which is available on the Mezonte website, is an hour-long documentary directed by Pedro, which is a very, very fine documentary about mezcal in general. So just a plug for the information real quick on your website, the transparency part, the information on producers part, and the filmic part of what you guys do is all available generously on your website. So I would recommend the audience tonight, you and the audience tonight, to look at those things as sort of a complement to what you're going to hear from our two producers this evening. And this is the tasting part. So we are going to start with the two raicillas that are on the list. And we're going to start, actually, number one is going to be the Tabernas, La Venenosa Tabernas. And well, this is always sort of hard to talk about the mezcals and the tasting alongside the presentation, which doesn't have necessarily very closely to do with the mezcals themselves that we're tasting. But you're going to talk about the raicilla, denomination of origin, and the politics thereof, and all those kinds of things. But we're going to start again with the Tabernas. Real quick, just sort of the basic data on that one is the species is locally called Chico Aguiar, which is an angustifolia, I believe, a variety of angustifolia. The second raicilla we're going to taste is La Venenosa, the green label, the Costa label. And that is an ensemble, or a mix of two different species, Chico Aguiar, angustifolia, as well as Amarillo, which is a rhodocantha variety, I believe. So you're going to get two species in that one. Two different producers. In the first case, Chalio Rodriguez. In the second case, Alberto Hernandez, both located in El Tuito, which is on the north coast of Jalisco. And the production process, as I understand it, at least according to the date on the back of the bottle, is pretty similar. Underground roasting, of course, natural fermentation in oak vats. In this case, double distillation in Filipino-style stills, which combine stainless steel and wood in the same alembic, right? And you'll probably talk about production methods in some detail, Pedro. So that's maybe all, just the basic data before we get started. And so let's get going. Go ahead and pour your first mezcal, and Pedro and Zule, take it away.
Okay, I just wanted to make a real quick overall about what is raicilla, what is mezcal, what is an agave spirit for those who might not know as in a broader way. And then I'll turn it on to Sule to talk a little bit about raicilla, and then I'll go through some details. But basically, because there's a lot of people that ask us, like, for example, what's the difference between tequila or raicilla and mezcal? Basically, in Mexico, there has been numerous ways of calling all of these agave spirits, and it depends on the regions where they are produced. Most of the time, it's because of cultural history of naming those spirits in different ways. And I'll just actually start sharing a little map so you can just see, talking about of Jalisco, just to see a little bit of it. Just in Jalisco, you can see all of these names that are for agave spirits. So you can see up north, Tepe and Tuchi, that are native communities making these spirits. Then in the center, when only tequila was produced in and around the area of the volcano of Tequila, was called Tequila, only there. Also very near, you can find Barranca. And as you go to the coast, you can find Vino de Lechuguilla and Vino de Cerro. And when you get to the coast, that's where it originally started as raicilla. That's the name of that spirit in that area. And if you go all the way south, you can find Tusca or Vino Mezcal or just Vino. And in the border with Michoacán, you can find Vino de Olla. So now you're talking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different ways of calling mezcales or agave spirits in a different way due to a cultural aspect in just one state. So that's the same thing across Mexico. So don't be like sometimes confused if you hear all about all of these names and all of these species of agave and everything. It's basically a thing of that it's always been in Mexico for hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. And here you can see a map from Conavio that most of you might know, that just shows you the 12 most important or more used agaves to produce mezcal in Mexico. And so you can see that it's almost everywhere in Mexico. And these are only, as I was saying, just 12 of them. Now we have the info that there are around 53 to 55 different species and counting. So it's a thing that it's not only a way of processing an agave, it's a biocultural element that it's very, very important here in Mexico, not only because of the spirits that they produce, but also the other things that they produce with agave. Just a quick thing to remember that mezcal, it doesn't mean a spirit or a distilled spirit. It means cooked agave. And cooked agave was actually the main thing to provide carbohydrates to Mesoamerica through, there's data that it's been for 9,500 years ago. So it's, first of all, it was something to eat, and then something to dress, and then something to drink, and construction, soap, medicine, you name it. That's why it's very important, the relationship between agave and human beings. So it was just a real quick like umbrella, just to think wider and not just think about agave and the relationship between agave and a human being. through a spirit. It's a little bit wider and broader, this spectrum. So maybe I'll just share another image so Zule can give us like a overall about the raicilla, and let's start there.
And real quick, Pedro, this is time to mention this. This is a more informal session, so go ahead and stick your questions or comments in the chat over the course of the presentations, and I will attend to those as best I can.
Yes, please do so, because there's more things that we can talk about that if you are interested, that maybe sometimes it doesn't really has to do with something in particular of what we're saying, but the thing that we would like to aim is also to answer questions, to solve any kind of doubts that you have through mezcales, raicillas, whatever. So please do so. And just before Zule starts talking a little bit about the context of raicilla, all of these pictures of these maps are another information that I'm going to show you, like in 5 slides, are it's part of the work of a biologist called Oasis Huerta that has done a great study around raicilla in both areas, well, the main both areas, Sierra and Costa. So thanks to him, because these maps and information are very, very precise of his work in the field. So thank you, Oasis, and I'll turn it out to Zule.
Hi, everyone. As Pedro was saying, raicilla, by definition, well, it is a mezcal. It is a mezcal in a way that it is a spirit produced from cooked agave that is then crushed, fermented, and then twice distilled. The name raicilla is given to it by a cultural context, which it makes it specifically from 2 main regions, which is the coast and the Sierra. Actually, the raicilla was originated in the coast, and later on it expanded to the other side of the mountains. So it was divided in these 2. They have similar methods of production, but it has changed over time. Also, the kind of agave that they use in each of the regions are different because the environment is different. So the agaves that you find in the Sierra, not necessarily you will find them all in the Costa. So basically we have Rodacantha and Angustifolia in the Costa side, and all of these in the Sierra side. They have different, since mezcales and raicillas and all agave spirits are very diverse, because they can be produced from around 54 species from agave. You can have like a different variety of flavors and profiles, smells, and it's not only given by the agave itself, but also the context, the cultural context in which these spirits are produced. So they are very relatable. I mean, they get along very well with the kind of food and the gastronomic culture that they have in each of these regions. So that's why they have also different profiles. Well, these are the kind of tools that they use. They are similar but different at the same time. In the Costa side, basically they still use the underground oven, and in the Sierra they use this ovens above ground, which are made of brick. They use also different kind of distillation, which is in the coast, it is a Filipino style of still, which basically is a copper pot with a hollow assembly of two different goods. One is a tapa, because the copper pot is very wide and doesn't really cope with the tree trunk that it's called the steel. This layer in the middle, it's called the tapa, and it is made to cope with the tree trunk on top. Then on top, there's a copper pot with cold water running all the time. So it keeps the water cool and condenses the vapors that will go from the copper pot to the top. And then this will be put on top of a receptor that it's called a spoon, a cuchara. And then it leads it out through a funnel made of agave leaves. In the Sierra, they have this different kind of steel, which is a hybrid. It is sometimes made of an assembly of goods that it's like a barrel. And after that, it doesn't have like a cooler on top like the one in the Costa. Instead, it has a lid, or sometimes it has like a tube that goes to a coil that is immersed in cold water. This specific kind of distillation, it is proper to the west of Mexico, and it's called the Filipino style or internal condensation, because it is technology brought from the Filipinos through the China, a commercial route that arrived in the coast of Colima, and then it expanded to a bit north, which is also Jalisco, so it's all that area. In these other places that it was used to be called Vino Barranca, Vino de Cerro, they also use the holes in the ground that works as oven, and that is the only place or the only step of the process in which the smokiness can be apported to it, since it's the only space in which it is in contact with smoke or the fire.
I wanted to share a little bit about specifically the one that you're trying. It's from Chalillo, right? The first one. Let me show you a little bit of the pictures that some of them Oasis took actually, and to share a little bit of that. This is the head, or the head of the agave that is called Chico Aguiar. This is the main type of agave that Chalillo uses. And you can see Chalillo here is the man with the hat over there. And as Doug was telling you, he distills in a hybrid, just like, well, it's not a hybrid, but it's different types of materials from the ones that we saw in the other picture and what Zule was telling you about. So you can see that instead of copper, he's using stainless steel here as a receptor for the fermentation. And also actually, instead of using the funnel and even the condenser on top, it's also stainless steel. He uses also, that was actually a very beautiful moment, because maybe you recognize these guys. It's Graciela Angeles from Real Minero and his brother Edgar Angeles. They were on a trip to share a little bit of the experience that they have making mezcal at that forum that we were talking at Puerto Vallarta. So it was a beautiful encounter between producers from very different and faraway regions. And the thing that there's a detail on the technical data, Doug, that Chalillo doesn't ferment in wood vats. He ferment. I know that it says that on label, but he ferments in. Well, he used to ferment in plastic, and now since the DOR, it's getting into the NUM. All of these rules are changing a little bit, or a lot of it, and they actually made him change from that he used to use to also stainless steel vats. So it's a thing that it's something to consider, because the taste is changing, obviously, because they're not using. He used to use like the old type of distillation, like all wood and copper, but now he's changing to wood and everything else with stainless steel. So he rests his raicilla in these tanks of stainless steel too, and he luckily commercializes his raicilla as Don Chalillo with this brand. So if at any time you are at Vallarta, Yelapa, or anything, and you find this label, yeah, that's him, and that's a really good raicilla. So that's a very interesting fact. This agaves that he actually grows in his backyard sometimes can weigh up to, I don't know, like 400 or even 500 pounds. Just a single head of the agave already shaped like this, and it's a very I mean he's not really old, but he's like elderly. I mean, it's just like one of the ones that keep the old school style, although he has changed some of his tools. And I don't know if someone wants to share a little bit of what, if they are having this, if anyone is having this and wants to share a little bit of what they get, would be amazing. If not, don't worry. It's not an exam. It's just like sometimes it's good to share and see why some flavors or some aromas are really interesting, and sometimes they just it's something weird sometimes, but it's not that it's bad. It's just like it's good to try to find the reason why it tastes or it smells like that. Sometimes it's lactic, sometimes it's meaty, sometimes it's less smoky, more smoky, stuff like that. So if anyone wants to share, please do so.
I get sort of a minerality out of it that I don't get from a lot of raicillas. You may have said earlier, but do you know what kind of water he uses in this?
Spring water. It's
okay.
Spring water. All of these guys from the coast use spring water. And I don't know if the other raicillas that you've tasted, Nick, are also from the coast, or sometimes from sierras like Mascota or San Sebastián del Oeste, because that would change a lot. Like all the profiles, even though like Sule was saying that even in the same region or even in the same town, people are working with the same agave, same tools and everything, it might change a lot the flavors between them. But when you do tasting from Sierra and from Costa, it definitely you can tell most of the time, because most of the raicillas in the Sierra are a single distillation, so there's a complete other profile with those, and these guys are second distillation. So you remember where were the other raicillas that you tried that didn't taste like this minerality?
I've had most of the Venenosa raicillas,
okay,
which are usually much more like vibrant, fruity profiles.
Which is the only brand available. The only brand available in Arizona, by the way, is Venenosa.
yeah.
selection is limited.
I mean, there are not that much of them. There are not a lot of them. But yeah.
But
Yeah.
Pedro, as I understand it, the Tabernas part of La Venenosa's portfolio is a little bit higher production. I think the idea is to offer a raicilla at a little bit lower price point for accessibility.
I think so. I'm not completely sure. I've heard that, but it's. I mean, it's a thing that we should consider about the amount of production that is being done, and what does that causes, or lowering the price or even the alcohol volume. I don't know what ABV is this?
44.7.
Okay.
So it's in the window there.
Okay, let me show you a little bit of, all of these guys produce different spirits and different ways. This is what Don Chalio usually does with his. So that's a regular raicilla from the Costa. That's how it should look like. So that's a beautiful way of showing the pearls, right? And that's around 50% alcohol. That wouldn't happen under 47 or 40 something. That's a good thing to notice, to see what type of pearls the mezcales or raicillas or any kind of agave spirit makes, because it also shows a little bit of that, of the quality of the spirit, and also talks about the tradition of different regions on how they work and how they've always done things. So it's always good to keep that in mind. Let me show you. I don't know. Well, maybe. Okay. No, it's okay. I was going to ask if you wanted to start sipping the next one. If you all, well, the ones that have the second raicilla from Beto, and because it's always good. Also, it's always good to leave a little bit of the one that you're tasting right now. Rest a little bit there. And after you taste the second and the third one, go back to the first and the second one and go back and forward. So you can notice all of these different things that you can find. And sometimes the other raicilla will help you to notice all of these other notes that you didn't get on the first turn. So it's always good to do that.
Yeah, in keeping with that transition, this is a great time to switch to number 2, I think. This one strikes me as a little less lactic than a lot of the raicillas we've had in the past, or what we sort of lump into this broad category as kind of funky notes in raicillas, which I think is in part the product of a longer fermentation, which I think is traditional. You can always correct me if I'm wrong, which I think is traditional in that part of the world. And this one seems a little less like that. And the mineral notes that Nick noted, I think, are definitely there. Granite kind of notes are certainly in there. And is this maybe the difference? Maybe a function of slow or faster fermentation times in this case than slower ones?
Yeah, definitely, it's part of it. This, even though they're like on the coast and in a very low altitude, a lot of heat, high temperatures in these places would be like the perfect place for rather quick fermentation, right? That would be, all the elements would be like, okay, if you're on that situation, on that spot, definitely it will have a fast fermentation, but it's not the case in any of those guys. For example, and I always put that as an example because I love the precision of Japo. That's another producer from his 87 years. And he's like always telling you like the specific number of days that at least he will leave it for fermentation, and it's 23 days. That's the least that he'll leave it there. And up to, I've tasted some of them that are 40 days of fermentation. And it does have to do with obviously the type of yeasts and the amount of sugar content that the agave has. So these agaves are very, very sweet. So it takes longer to have the whole process from getting to this sweetness to produce alcohol. And the type of yeast that sometimes some of them work in different temperatures. So this would be a type of yeast that works very slow in high temperatures. So that's a combination of these two elements that will definitely make longer fermentations and develop the lactic acid with it. That's where it becomes all of these type of flavors, from butter to oil to cheese and different stuff. So that's part of the reason why. I mean, it's not that all of them have it, but you'll see in a different level how it works in this type of fermentation. Could I show you a little bit of the agaves and that are from the Sierra? I know that we're not tasting any kind of raicilla from the Sierra, but it will be interesting just for you to see the type of agaves. And actually, you'll see Beto in one of those. So all of these are Maximiliana, or also called lechuguilla. This type of agaves, you can see. They are not like the other type of angustifolia. The leaves are wider and in a kind of oval type of way. And they grow in this type of forest that is more like pine type of forest. You can see like even the fog there. And sometimes the agaves tend to do this type of figures or open more so they can get more sunlight. That's the reason. Instead of like this, they will go like this. And the type of agaves, let's see if I have some of them. I'll show you some of the ones at the Costa. But the type of leaves that are mostly angustifolia and rhodacantha, they are thinner and a little bit longer. And this guy on the left, it's Beto Hernandez, Alberto Hernandez, the one that if you're trying the second raicilla from Venenosa, from Costa, he's closer to a beach that is called Maito. It's on a little town called La Gorupa. And I've been having so much fun using Google Maps. I want to show you a little bit of that. I don't know if I can share that. Let me try. Or if not, I can show you something else. Yeah. That's actually a picture, and this is a bigger picture because since that's another way of making to see the ones that we're trying tonight, and you can see even over down here to the right, you could see Michoacán and Morelia near where Emilio is at, and I don't know if you see my cursor. How do you say cursor in English? I don't know. My pointer. Do you see my pointer? Okay. Yeah. So around here, here is Mascota. And if you go here, this is Tuito. And you can see here would be Puerto Vallarta. So you go south, you get to Tuito, and then you can go either this way. So you can find Beto, for example, and he's around here. And Hapo is around here. And other producers are all across this area. That is a very mountain area, as you can see. And this is the other part where the producers are from this bigger side of the Sierra. It's around there. So what the thing that Zule was telling you about the transition from going from the coast to the center of the state of Jalisco, it's of just simple sense and just like simple logic that people were coming from Asia and getting even from Guerrero, now that it's Acapulco, it used to be called Puerto San Diego, I think, and all the way up through the coast. And the Philippines brought the system of the Philippine type of style of steel, the ones that you already saw some pictures. And then they started moving, they developed that system of distillation in this area. And then it started to move towards the center of the continent. So it was going through here to the center of Jalisco. And that's, well, now that we're talking about this, it's also good to notice another thing, that the DOR is actually, I'm sorry to say it, but it's mistaken, because they decided, because most of the producers that are under the DOR or promoted the DOR, actually there weren't a lot of producers, more people that are commercializing with it, are located in Mascota and some of them in San Sebastián del Oeste. So they decided to name the origin of the production of raicilla right here in Mascota instead of here in the coast. So it's kind of tricky, and you can see all of these little shady things that it's happening, and it's basically, well, the same old politics, economics, and trying people to do business, and it's okay to do business, but maybe not by doing this type of shady movements and making some I would say like well, I would even go to say lies about it, because we know as fact that other things have happened. So it's kind of like mysterious ways they walk, but it's something that we all start noticing when we get to know more about the production. And as for example, the thing that happened to Chalio, that he used to go ferment his raicilla in plastic, or before that he used to work with wood, but that was probably like 20 years ago or more. And for the last 15 years, he was fermenting in plastic. And now, because an arbitrary decision, what's becoming the Regulatory Council for Raicilla decided that there was not place for plastic in this scenario. They would rather go either wood or stainless steel. But 95%, if not more, of the producers in this region ferment in plastic. So what you're dealing with is they have to change their traditional ways of making raicilla to become a traditional raicilla under the eyes of the CRR. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's a very mysterious way of working. And the reasons, because I got to talk with the president of that council, and I asked him why would you do that? I mean, why don't you respect the things that they are already doing? And he was like, well, you know, it's a thing about of being clean and being completely clean, healthy, and everything. I was like, well, but you are allowing fermentation in wood. Wood is not as clean as stainless steel. It's actually less clean in that sense than plastic and the plastic that they're using. And he was like, oh, well, I know, but it just looks awful. It doesn't look pretty. And those are the type of reasons that are where they are getting the decisions made. And it's just like crazy. I think, and I actually told him, like, in that sense, that we already have gone through analysis of like 12 of these producers in that area that were fermenting with this, just to check if there was a flaw in the whole spirit, to see if it was healthy or not, and they all passed perfectly. So that's not a reason. I mean, it's just like there's some things that maybe for an economical and business purposes, it's better for them to change to stainless steel instead of preserving the ways that they are working since more than 50 years. But that's the kind of a scenario that we're having right now with the raicilla and all what's happening with the DOR. I think it's always good to know because you'll see you'll get a lot of raicillas in the States telling you that it's a very traditional or even ancestral type of raicilla done with hundreds or thousands of liters right now. I mean, and it will get very mysterious. So just heads up. So you'll probably see like this great invasion of raicillas very, very soon. I mean, as fast as soon as the NAM gets through, you'll see a lot of raicillas in the state.
We have a question.
Yeah.
So Francisco is asking, why did I make the decision about calling the origin mascota?
Oh, well, they have more producers or more people that were willing to go with the conditions and the business transactions that were like set on table from that part, and they were already working for a long time ago in that sense. So they had already like a business plan since a long time ago. And there's always been like this thing, a little, if you will, like a little fight between the Sierra and the coast. If you see the people in the coast, they don't actually care about what's happening other places. They just do what they always know what to do. And they just produce for their own communities and maybe around the communities. People that are in Mascota, most of the time, not all of them, but a lot of them are more focused like in the business model of tequila, actually. It's very funny because I've seen a lot of producers from that area like talk really bad about tequila and their ways, but copying exactly the models of what they've already done. So they decided that, and that's a fact, the people that were from the Consejo Mexicano Promotor de la Raicilla, or that now is going to become the Consejo Regulador de la Raicilla, we're taking the shots at this moment and making the decisions about what was going to be the DOR. And actually, that was the reason, because we made the forum at Puerto Vallarta, because the model and the request for a denomination of origin for raicilla was already put out there without consulting any of the producers at the coast. So it became very exclusive for a certain area. And so they saw a little bit of resistance from the people from the coast that didn't want to be part of it. They didn't actually know what a DO was. They didn't know about the benefits or not. And they were just doing what they have done for centuries. So they decided, okay, we can't set the origin of raicilla in the place that we are not being accepted. So they decided to change to the center, to change to Mascota. And actually, I don't know, I have to research that, but it actually was an attempt to change the name of Mascota to Mascota de la Raicilla, so they could actually say that that was a geographical origin for the raicilla. Same thing happened with mezcal. I mean, it was like Matatlan, and then it became Matatlan, the mezcal de Matatlan, how it was called, was like Matatlan de Mezcal or something like that. They just did that, and that's the way that these things work. So it's sometimes you don't know if to laugh or to cry, because it produces both.
Right.
But it's kind of like that. That's the way that they're handling these kind of situations.
Mascota is already a pueblo mágico, right?
Mascota is a pueblo mágico, same as San Sebastián del Oeste. Yeah. So
Right.
tourism, it's a big thing.
There's already some power there, and maybe they're thinking about tourism.
They're already doing it. Yeah.
And La Ruta de Raicilla or something like that would, be headquartered in Mascota. So
It is.
there's all that stuff going on, probably.
Exactly. There's a lot of flaws. I mean, I don't know if we even have the time for that, but it's a thing that it's a shame, and it's so sad, because after the DO for tequila, the DOR for mezcal, for bacanora, all of these other appellations of origin that have been done for agave spirits here in Mexico, and we've seen all of the flaws, or flaws in a certain way, because it's a big business for some of them, but the flaws of putting out the real producers or the very small producers, how that affects and how could be not fall into the same mistakes. And that was the idea for making that forum. We invited the people for the CRR, we invited producers from both regions, we invited people like Graciela Angeles or Miguel Angel Partida from Southern Jalisco to share their experiences of making a mezcal inside or outside a DO, the benefits, the cons, and everything. And well, they just didn't care. I mean, they were like, well, we already have this plan, and that's happening, and that's it. So, for example, the time that the president went to this place in the coast, actually was the first time that he put food in there, and was telling them about the conditions of how to get into the DOR. He was asking for an amount of either money or raicilla as your fee to enter, and then monthly fee. And some of those producers were like, just step back immediately, because the amount of raicilla that they were asking for was almost like 25% of the production that they do annually. So it was like, how can I do that? I mean, I will have to start doing more, or start doing it in another way, so to satisfy that, and without getting into numbers of the registration of their brands, all of these analysis that they have to do, all the taxes that they have to pay. They didn't tell them about that. So it's very exclusive. It doesn't make it easier for these little producers that are actually the ones that have preserved the traditions through centuries to actually be part of it. Instead of hearing them, they're just like telling them what to do. So a lot of them, they just like, well, I'm not getting into that. And I don't know why someone that is not a producer, is not from this region, and has no idea of how we've worked, has to come and tell us how to do a raicilla. And if not, we won't be able to call it raicilla. So I think it's actually anti-constitutional. You know, everyone has the same opportunity to have to sell their products in the same way and the same level of opportunities, and this is clearly not happening. But probably we should shift to the next mezcal, because we do need a mezcal after this type of talks.
Well, now we move to Michoacan.
Oh, perfect. Beautiful.
So the third mezcal is under the label Don Mateo, produced by Emilio Vieira. As Pedro already mentioned, he is located a little bit south and east of Morelia.
Yeah.
And the species is Cupreada.
Yes.
Just an amazing one.
Yeah, I'll just try to give me a moment, and I'll put some of the images and let Zule talk a little bit about it.
Well, I'm gonna start in the meantime while you find the images. So mezcales are very diverse all over Mexico. Traditionally, they used to be made in 27 states. So it's practically all of Mexico. But in some of them, the culture around drinking mezcal, it is very strong. And that is the case of Michoacan. So they have like very big attachment to their roots and their culture, and they are used to drink mezcal all the time. So if actually you go to a bar in Michoacan, most of the menu that you will have, I mean, a mezcal bar, it's basically mezcal from Michoacan. They have also different varieties, different species of agaves all over the state, but they don't grow all over. They have a few species in a certain region and then others in different regions, depending on the condition, the climate, weather, altitude, etc. And they are very used to work with those varieties and those species in each of these regions. So the mezcals from Michoacan are very diverse. We have to the left, this region that is next to Jalisco, that it's actually the border where you could find like vino de olla, as you saw on the other map, and it is called a region the region is called Jalmich, so Jalisco, Michoacan, and the other region it's Morelia, where Mezcal del Mateo and is made, but also Sitio and Queréndaro. And in the Parapeo, those are a few of the municipalities that are traditional producers of mezcal in Michoacan. Mezcal Don Mateo, it's like a family brand that is Don Emilio.
Yeah.
Basically, they work with different species of agave that are inequidens or maguey alto, cupreata, and cenizo. That it's actually not allowed to be called cenizo anymore because of the DO, and now it should be called manso de Saguayo. All of these have different properties and profiles, but they're all really good. The one that you're gonna try, it is a very special one because they are like masters in working with that specific agave.
Oh, sorry. Just a quick fact before I forget about Beto, the producer from Raicilla from the previous one. I think it's a funny thing to know that he's actually not from Jalisco. He's from Guerrero, and he moved to Jalisco and started distilling Raicilla from that area. And I think it's a very interesting and funny story to find a producer from Guerrero working at the Raicilla site in Jalisco. But sorry, that was it. And this one, I just wanted to show you the family that sadly we're now missing Don Emilio. He passed away a few years ago. But I think that, like Zule was telling you about, it's a state of a long time tradition of making mezcal. And Emilio Jr. Has both sides of his parents with mezcaleros family. So mezcal runs literally on their blood. Sorry, Zule, you can continue.
It's okay. I just want to add that Don Emilio has this, I think it's the 5th or 6th generation of mezcaleros in
fifth
family. And this what that Pedro is showing us is a picture from Rancho Limon that it's so beautiful. And I don't know how you got those shots, but okay. Those are agave cupreata. Agave cupreata is a species that grows around the Balsas River. So basically, it just grows naturally in some parts of Michoacán and some parts from Guerrero. The scientific name that it is agave cupreata comes from the color of the teeth and the thorn. The teeth are the spikes that it has on the side of the leaves, and the thorn is the final one because they are copperish. So that's why it's called agave cupreata, but in each of these states, it has different regional names. It's called maguey chino in Michoacán and maguey papalote in Guerrero. It is chino because their leaves are curly because of the way of the teeth pressing the other leaf that is being born in some sort of way. And they have a very particular characteristic that they don't produce any sprouts, so there are no hijuelos. So they have to be able to bloom to produce the quiote and the flowers and be pollinated in order to have a next generation of agave cupreata. This place, Rancho Limon, it is very, I don't know how to say it. It's very important because of the way that it is treated in an agroforestal way of management of the agave and the land, which is the natural way. It is like beyond any organic certification or anything like that. And they have two ways. One area, it's the natural way in which the agave blooms and then spread the seeds by the wind, and all of the agaves grow in a very close area. And then they have this other place where it's a nursery, where they have the agaves until they are big enough to resist in the soil naturally. So they have these both ways.
So, Julie, just to summarize that part, we visited this place not so long ago. Francisco was there as well, who's with us tonight. And so what the family is doing is gathering seed, right, from agaves that are allowed to flower,
Yes.
and then planting the seed in semilleros like this. And then eventually, once the plants are large enough, they're being transplanted out into the field at El Limon, right?
Yes.
So that's basically the system, because this kind of links up with some themes from last night. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Yes. That
This
is correct.
is a semi-cultivation kind of model.
Yes, that's right. And they have around they have two places for the nurseries. One is here at the same Rancho Limon. It's also very important to have these seedlings growing in the place where they're going to be transplanted. And the other one is actually at the Vinata, that it's actually an hour away, an hour drive from here. And it has two different things to that. One is that the place where the Vinata is at, it's not particularly the best place to grow these types of agaves, because it's colder, it's more forest. But the thing that is very important at the Vinata is the type of water that they have. It's the type of it's spring water. They have several springs over there with an excellent type of water, and that makes a whole difference of why they should choose that place for the Vinata. And over there, Doña Delia, Emilio's mom, that it's this beautiful woman over here, so energetic and generous and friendly and smiley people. I mean, it's just like she's just like beautiful. She also had
one of the best chefs in the world.
That's true.
Oh, an amazing cook, yeah.
Yeah, she's also like a traditional cook from Michoacan, and she does these amazing dishes. But besides that, she started actually the nursery project was actually her idea, and she started it at the Vinata, and then they make this extension to the Rancho Limon, like I don't know how many years ago, decades. So they've been doing this not because of a trend, not because they're like on this type of program of, oh, we are reforesting and everything, like and we're planting one agave for each, I don't know, all of these things that are very common right now. They've been doing it forever, and they've been doing it in the most beautiful way, because they don't not only reforest with the same type of agaves, but they also take care of the ecosystems where they are growing and where they live. So they leave all these, like you probably saw at this, where all these type of trees are very important. All of this grass that you're seeing here, it's very important, and specifically right now with the global warming, it's the best way to keep the soil in a right temperature and not overheating. And the way that they preserve this and they clean these fields is not with herbicides or pesticides or anything like that. They use cattle. So it's silvopastoreo. I don't know what term in English is that, but it's basically they use the cattle to eat the grass, and at the same time they put, well, something to grow, help grow the agaves. So it's completely chemical free, as Zule was saying. And it's a virtuous circle over there. It's just an amazing and a perfect example to look up to for any type of producer. This is probably one of the few. I mean, probably you can count them with the hands in your, with the fingers in your hand, the producers at least at a certain level of production that can maintain this type of ecosystem in this way. and also be part of well, these shots are done were done by David Suro. But you can see the Quiotes that they are also part of the Bat Friendly project. That's also very important, and they've been very active and very participative at this project. And it's something that they weren't just good enough by doing all of this preservation of the ecosystem. They decided to also join this project that demands them even a harder or further commitment with nature and agaves, and also ecosystem, and also the like natural, like biological in all senses, now also with bats. So it's a perfect example of how to do things right, I guess. I mean, I think. And I don't know if you want to go through the process of how they make their mezcal. So like, could you?
Yeah.
Like,
So basically the first thing that they do is wait until the agave is ready to be harvested. That is when it starts developing the quiote. And that takes between 8 to 12 years to be ready. And when they start growing the quiote, they cut it. And then sometimes they wait between at least 3 months. And then when they are ready to harvest it, they cut all of the leaves. They take it to the vinata because it's not growing in the same place. So they have these kind of underground ovens that are conical, and they use local firewood. So they make a fire. I used to say that a small fire, but as you can see, they take a lot of firewood. So yes, that's it. That's a big oven. It can have up to, I think, 15 tons. But they don't always use it like that. So, I mean, not at its full capacity. They use it like 13 tons average. And this is oak. And then they use volcanic rock on top of it. Then they light it up and they wait like 10 hours until the heat is even in all of the oven. And then there's an amazing technique that Pedro has a picture of, in which
right, I couldn't find it, but I'll find a thing. Keep talking about it, but I'll find it.
Okay, so they wait. This is like overnight. They light the oven the night before. They gonna put all the agave inside. But this is an amazing technique. So Emilio walks around all of the oven with his hand like extended over it to measure the temperature. And that way he knows when the agave must be put inside. And then they start putting the agave on top of the rocks.
Second.
Until they fit all the agave in it. They make a mountain on top of the rocks. I was trying to click on the pictures, but I'm not. I'm not the one.
Just tell me, Chile.
Yeah, sorry. Then they put all the agave in it, and then they cover it with palm tree leaves. Then they put a few layers of it, and then they seal it with dirt. Yes, that's how it looks like. Do you have one of the oven totally closed?
Let me see, maybe in another presentation, but
okay. Well, they seal it with all of this soil that they have around. And sometimes they use logs to keep the soil from going down. And how long it stays there?
For between 4 and 5 days.
Depending on the agave and
the amount of
the amount of agave. Yeah.
Yeah. I found it. Let me search. I found the folders. Just give me some minutes, a minute, and I'll find it. Don't worry. It is beautiful. See how Emilio does that.
Yes. And it's also very impressive in a way that is this technique and know-how that you can only learn by doing it over and over again. And it is such a specific time that it was this time. He looks like he's making an oath, like this is gonna be an amazing mezcal.
And it will be.
That's his thermometer.
Yeah.
I remember, actually, I don't know who was on that group, but I remember this time that he, to build this oven takes around 10 to 14 hours. But the timing is so precise that when it's time to put all and to build the oven, like charge it, fill it with the agaves, it's a period of 15 minutes. So when they have to decide when to put it into the oven. So it was actually a visit with a group with David Suro. And I was there before because I wanted to shot some pictures and take some video and stuff like that. So I got there earlier. So they were supposed to arrive, I don't know, like just an hour, like 10 a.m. or something like that. And it was 10 a.m. and they didn't arrive. And suddenly Emilio, I just saw his face really worried and really stressed out. And he was like, Pedro, I don't know what to do. It's about time that we need to load the oven. I was like, Emilio, do it. And like, no, but the group, and they want to see how it's been done. And I only have like 10 to 15 minutes to start doing that. I was like, Emilio, do it. You don't have to compromise a whole production because these guys are late. Come on. And it will take around 30 to 40 minutes to load the whole oven. So don't worry, start doing that. And he started that with a lot of concern. You could see his internal conflict, but he started, and 5 minutes after that, the group arrived, and so everyone was participating, and everyone was happy. But what I do think that it's unbelievable is that precise moment that he knows that if he puts it before, it will be undercooked. If he puts it afterwards, it will be burned. So he has to decide with this very empiric but very, very precise technique of his hand to see the temperature, just like if you were at an Argentinian grill or something like that, to have the exact temperature where the know-how, the thing that he learned from his father and then his father from his father and so on, it's preserved in that. And that doesn't, like commercial brands or people that now are like sending new brands and stuff, or celebrities or whatever, or brands that are expanding and trying to do thousands of liters monthly or so, are not able to do this because they don't have that heritage. And I think that's a part of the culture that it's in risk of it's in danger of extinction. Because all of these other circumstances that are surrounding this type of things, just to call, like there's a brand in Michoacán that is actually setting up a whole that actually is already there, a huge pinata with around 8 stills, I don't know how many ovens, fermentation tanks, and stuff like that. And their intention is just to do at least 10,000 liters monthly. So it's not a matter of well, you do your business or whatever. It's a matter of you dealing with nature resources, and we're not talking about only agave. Agave could probably be the least of the problems with that. Obviously, to produce 10,000 liters monthly, you need thousands of agaves. But not only that, you need thousands and thousands of liters of water, and you need thousands of, well, not thousands, but more than, Emilio, for making 300 liter batch on this production, the amount of wood that he needs, it's around, I don't know, maybe how many oaks? I don't know, but it doesn't go over 10 different types of oak trees. And for that to work, if you see the size of the logs, has to be an oak for around 40 to 50 years. So how would you do that to create 10,000 liters monthly? I mean, that's not even the amount of liters that Emilio produced a year. So how would you do that monthly in a place that already has a lot of problems with illegal wood chopping? There's already a problem with that. So you're talking, and I would hate to sound dramatic, but it's true. You're talking about an ecocide. I don't know how it's translated in English, but probably like that. It's just that. I mean, you're killing a whole ecosystem to produce more mezcal. And it's actually, I hate when I hear the speech of, oh, we're creating jobs. Yeah, you're creating jobs. I mean, cartels are also creating jobs, you know, and it's the same as harmful as that. I mean, it's just like you're killing a whole ecosystem in the name of selling more bottles of mezcal. So I think that we have to be more careful about what type of mezcales we're buying, because by buying them, we're supporting this type of attitudes or practices that are not only not even or not completely transparent, but also killing the sources of not only their sources in case of being a private property, but killing a whole ecosystem that is part of a whole state and a whole nation. So I think that these type of practices goes completely against what we were seeing in this type of plantations, or this whole effort that these type of families are doing here with Don Mateo de la Sierra. So before I used to think and say that I didn't care about industrial mezcales, and there was room for every type of category of mezcal, like industrial mezcal, commercial mezcal, and traditional mezcal. But right now, I mean, I have to say that I've changed my opinion about that. And I think that when an industrial or commercial mezcal does that and has that type of impact in the ecosystem and in the way of living and the way of disappearing this type of traditions, I don't agree with that. And actually, I'm actually offended with that, because it dares even our intelligence to say, like, no, I don't want to be part of that. How could I just let that pass? I mean, I think we have like this kind of, at least us as Mexicans, having the notion of this, the information of this, we couldn't be able to just let go and walk away of what we're seeing and say nothing or do nothing about it, because it's part of our culture. either rather we like mezcal or we drink mezcal or tequila or any type of agave spirit or not. It's part of our cultural patrimony, and it doesn't have to do with their final product as a spirit. It has to do with a cultural patrimony that is in sake. So I think that we have to be more active in this sense, in the way that we choose our mezcales, the mezcales that we drink, or in type of agave spirits that we drink, and to see what we are supporting, because now it's a crucial time. I mean, it's changed from through the years, and right now it's a very delicate and very thin line that a lot of our decisions can make either a bad or a good impact on what's the future would be. So I think it's good to at least acknowledge the ones that are doing it right. And I think part of our job as an organization that tries to preserve this, to also point out the things that are being done in a bad practice for the agronomical and ecosystem. So I think that it's part of our job, even though it's bad news and some things that you don't want to hear, but they are there. So we have to point that out and just to let the information, and it's responsibility for each of us to take the decision of whatever, but with the whole information out there, right?
I can't think of a better note. Oh, Zule, you want to show a couple more images? We're about at time. But if there's something you really want to show, that's a fermentation tank.
Yeah, it's just like the fermentation tank for where Emilio does his mezcal. This is an empty one. As you can see, it's all wood and clay. And this is how it looks when it's completely filled. And this is when it's already in the fermentation process. Just to go really quick about the last steps of the process, so you can see it. And then, well, this is the type of steel that they have. And as I was saying, this is a perfect example of a role model of how to do things right. The family of Don Mateo de la Sierra has, for example, admit the introduction of technology in their facilities, but in their service, not the other way around, because there's always like, oh, you should change we were talking about the raicilla with changing the stainless steel for fermentation vats, right? Because the thinking of the industrial people would be like, oh, if you want to get rid of this type of components in your mezcal, do this, and that would bring lower down the amount of I don't know, copper or whatever. But the thing is that they're not thinking about the changes of the flavors and aromas and the personality of each mezcal. So what they have done is use the technology for changing or making better the things that they want to do better. So for example, here they put a thermometer, so just to see and double check the temperature, so they can be always on the right spot of the temperature, and so they can take out the mezcal as they exactly like. So it's a thing that they use for more precision of what they want to do, not for other people to tell them what to do for what they want to do. So I think that's a beautiful thing. And this is Emilio just checking and venenciando his mezcal, that they have different cuts, not only 3, they have around 5 cuts. And they always preserve their mezcales in glass. This is a beautiful cellar that they have right there at the Vinata. They preserve their different expressions, and it's just so beautiful and so unique to be at that place that's so filled with memories and amazing spirits. But yeah, Doug, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're at time and we kind of have to finish at 7:30, so we'll do that now.
Sure.
Yeah, but just what you were saying which was beautifully, I think, put, Pedro, about the right thing to do, the right way to do things, is a great note to end on. And of course, I want to thank you guys, Zule and Pedro. Thanks so much for giving yet more of your time to us here in Tucson. And we will certainly look forward to an ongoing relationship with you guys. Now, and this is, I need to say this, I think. These guys are Mezonte, and we were not tasting Mezonte tonight, which you might think, well, why the hell aren't we tasting Mezonte? And that's only because Mezonte is not yet available in Arizona. So we're working on that. This is the closest we could get to the heartland of their operation. But we certainly hope that in the near future, we'll have Mezonte available to us here in Tucson. And that's it for this evening. Thanks so much, you guys, for attending. Thanks to you too, Pedro and Zuli, once again for your words. And we'll see you next time. We'll see you in May.
Thank you for the invitation, and hope you liked it and had a good time sipping any type of agave spirit.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.